I hope you all are doing as well as people can in these days and taking good care of yourself and your loved ones. These are challenging times, but these times also reveal the importance of communities. In these incredible, tricky times, this is my attempt at connecting, bringing together HSS community of IIT. We'll be discussing our life after IIT. Hello, everyone. I'm Dimple, an alumni of MA program at IIT Gandhinagar, and I'm joined by Aashaka, a senior of mine at IIT. Aashaka graduated from IIT in 2017. Before we go ahead, let's begin with a quick introduction. Aashaka.
Hi, my name is Aashaka Shinde. I graduated from IIT in 2017, as Dimple said, and I currently work as a research associate at the National Academies of Science in Washington, D.C. It is really nice speaking to you all, and Dimple, great job on this attempt. Honestly, I feel like a lot of attempts before this have failed, so awesome.
Thank you so much. Okay, so let's rewind back to some time ago. What were your thoughts while joining IIT versus what were your career plans while you were exiting out of IIT in 2017? Like, I think the interdisciplinary MA program has quite some capability to influence one's thinking capabilities, academic and career process. So, like, how did it work out for you?
Oh, give me 1 second. I think something just. Oh yeah. Okay, I'm back. I'm sorry about that. I completely lost connectivity for a second. Um. Yeah. So how did I end up joining it? I would say it was complete serendipity. I was in my final year of a BSc in Life Sciences at St. Xavier's College, which was a completely science course, like hardcore lab work, lots of samples, lots of like, sitting through processes and working with machines and chemicals and stuff like that. And I was giving a bunch of entrance exams. And at the end of it, I I will be honest, I did not get through like a bunch of them because in part because I was pretty sure at that point that I did not want to do pure sciences anymore. Just because lab work can get tedious, and I realized that there is very little like human interaction when you're doing a ton of lab work nonstop. Like sure, you have lab mates, you have fun, of course, but at the end of the day, it's you and your samples, and if it doesn't work out, that's that. So I saw this poster for IIT Gandhinagar, and at first I honestly thought it was like a scam because I had not heard of IIT Gandhinagar at that point. I knew there were new IITs coming up, but I did not know anything about this. And my boyfriend at that time was applying, and I was like, well, the MA course looks interesting. Plus, they had mentioned at that point, I'd done like one subject in public health, and it felt very interesting. And the poster mentioned like a public health option, and I was like, this sounds interesting. Let's go for it. And I'd already missed the entrance exams for IIPH Gandhinagar, so I was like, this is my best shot right now. This is all I've got. So I ended up writing the application essays on the last day. I would not have anyone, but I wrote them on the last day, ended up sending my application, and I heard back, and I was like, wow, these guys actually want me after like real bad application essays, according to me, but according to them, apparently they were good. So yeah, but that's how it went. I did not know about the college, did not know about the course, found out on the last day and applied, and that's how I landed up there.
Oh, you know what? Things work out for you. So, okay, so what were you planning while you were exiting out of grad school? Did you have a clear idea of what you are going to do once the grad school ends?
So the funny part was when I put in my application, I was 100% clear that I want to work in public health or the development sector in general. I want to work in India. I definitely want to work with like tribal communities or underserved urban tribal communities. All of this very clear. Did my like MA thesis up until that point 100% clear. This is all I want to do. And then I graduated, and um, I wasn't sure anymore about what I wanted to do. Just because so I'd taken a bunch of stats courses. I knew all my stuff. But when your degree is MA and you want to work in public health, and it's in India, and India at that at least when I graduated. I don't know how it's going anymore because I have not followed up. But when I graduated, it was like if you want to work in public health, you have to be a doctor, which made zero sense to me at that point because I was like, wait, it literally nothing that I learned about public health is something that a doctor would do. The most they would do is maybe like follow up on, the beginning of epidemics or make sure that the health system or the health delivery system as a whole was working better. But that's only on the medical side. Like everything we do is program planning, delivery. How does it relate? So at that point, I was extremely scared that I would not have a job. I was applying to every single NGO that I could see just because I was like, I need a job. Masters ho gaya. This is India. Like abhi job karna padega types. And yeah, and honestly, I was pretty disheartened, not with my education, but with the system I entered into and how unprepared I was for it. Because jab, when I was at IIT, nobody told me that getting into government work for public health would be this disheartening, this difficult. And nobody also told me that NGO jobs are few and far between and they don't pay a lot. Like unless you're working for like an international NGO and it's a big project and bahut sara funding hai, you are probably not going to earn a lot. But around the same time, I had two other batchmates from undergrad graduating from IIPH, and they were the ones who actually had a more realistic view of what it would be like to enter the workforce. And honestly, I feel like that was the one thing IIT did not prepare me for. We had applicable skills. I mean, at that point, I knew enough stats to be able to say, if you want me to do a data set analysis, I will sit and do it. That was my internship essentially. So, but we didn't know what we were walking into. And honestly, I feel like that is one thing that could have come out better. But it's also forgivable because we were literally the second batch. They didn't know what they were doing with us either. So yeah, but yeah, that I was very unprepared for the real world. I had all the skills and knowledge, so to speak, but bahar jaake kya karna hai, job kaise dhoondni hai, literally nothing we knew. And there were like they had these like how to write a CV and cover letter workshops, except they were all very engineering CVs and cover letters. That is not how it works for a lot of arts fields. So yeah, very very unprepared, very very naive. Came out thinking, "अरे job तो फटाफट मिल जाएगा." कुछ नहीं मिला. Sat at home for 3 months, literally got nothing. And then yeah, that was how it was. So came out of grad school expecting to change the world, which is how it should be. I mean, I would definitely recommend that optimism to every single person coming out of grad school. कि दुनिया बदलने का optimism रखो. In the end, तुम शायद बदल जाओगे, but keep that optimism because that's probably what's going to drive what you do for the next 5 years after that, at least. उसके बाद, like all of the work environment is going to change you, turn you into like a half dejected robot. क्योंकि grants नहीं मिलेंगे and you will see problems, you will want to solve them, you will write a million grant applications, you won't get them, you will feel horrible about it. You'll be like, I have the skills, I know how to fix this problem, but the government won't cooperate, your funders won't cooperate, but your optimism is all what you've got, so keep that if you come out with it.
I'll agree on that. But yeah, very fine words, I'll say. I'll start with you. How did you find your first job? What was the process like? What was your mindset? You knew you had the skills and opportunities. How finally did you figure out how to put it out in front of people or in front of this panel who are hiring committees? And what was the taking point that they hired you at that point?
So first disclaimer, I did not get a job after IIT. I ended up going to grad school again, and my first job was after my second master's course. um, I which was also rough because I started applying for jobs right when the pandemic started. So people were not really hiring. There weren't a lot of opportunities, but there were still a bunch. And my first job, it actually worked out because I kept in touch with my professors. Um, so at least for this sector, how it works is it's not just going onto LinkedIn or all these job portals and seeing कि यहाँ पे vacancy है and you apply. I think I must have put in like 10 applications a day for May through October, so 5 months before I actually got my first job. And my first job was not from any of the million applications I put in. So um, my first job actually came about because my professors sent out an email saying, this is the position that's open. If anybody is interested, please let us know. And I reached out to that professor and I was like, well, I'm interested and I'm looking for a job. And at the same time, I heard from a friend saying, hey, my boss's husband's project is hiring. Are you interested? And I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, I'm interested at any job at this point, just dila do. So I applied to both those places. But the thing is, those two people helped me get my foot into the door. They helped me at least be heard. Because when you apply directly off of websites or of LinkedIn, it very often goes through filters, does not actually reach a human person. You don't get a reply. Whereas with these two, I was actually talking to a human person at the other end. And they looked at my writing samples, they looked at my CV, and they were like, you know what, let's set up an interview. So sometimes it's not about having the skills. You will have every single skill on earth. But if your CV does not reach the right person, you are not going to be heard or seen. And in that sense, I would say keep in touch with your professors, your batchmates from like undergraduate colleges, everybody. It does not have to be I am friends with this person and I talk to them every day. Sometimes it's just something as simple as, you know, every Diwali send out an email saying, hey, wish you a happy Diwali. Or every Christmas and write out a nice email and say, wish you a Merry Christmas. I hope you're doing well. And at least out here, I've realized if you just write those emails, people will reply. It's not a junk email. If it's just saying Merry Christmas, they will still reply and they will say, hey, I hope you're doing well. And it starts a conversation. And very often that's where your job opportunities are going to come from. Your professors probably have a bigger network at this point than you will have for the next 10 years, at least. So keep in touch with them. They will probably be hearing of like a million open positions saying, do you have a student who's graduating and who can do this? Or do you know someone who can do this? And at least for the development sector, I feel like that's how it works. Everybody's going to put out an email to everybody they know saying, hey, I have a job opening. Do you know anybody who can do this? They will post it on their website, sure, and they will look at a few applications from there, but most of it is going to be, hey, I know this person who's going to do this job for you. Are you interested in talking to them? And that's how it goes. So keep in touch with everyone. I was horrible at this. I hated networking. I would not make the effort to keep in touch, but this one thing made me realize it's essential that you keep in touch with everybody. Like internship में तुम्हारा immediate boss, उसको भी email भेजो, उससे भी बात करो. And like even someone that you interned with, you never know when they are going to end up in a place where they have job opportunities for you. You are never going to know when you need that job opportunity. So, and it's like don't connect in like a fake way where it's a forced interaction. It can, if you send out an email saying, hey, Merry Christmas, if you genuinely mean it and you write like 2 sentences saying, I hope you're doing well, you'll probably hear back, instead of like sending out a generic Christmas message to everybody. But yeah, that is how you will get a job. You will not get a job from every single LinkedIn post on earth. Nahi milega udhar se. And honestly, it's been like that for almost all of my batchmates here. Ki they kept in touch with undergrad professors or internship bosses, and sometimes internships convert into jobs, which is awesome, which is like perfect. But a lot of the other times it's going to come to you through an email
Which is
saying,
an
hey, I have,
ideal case scenario, actually,
yeah,
for most of the times.
yeah, that is perfect, but perfect never works out most of the time, at least. So yeah, that is how it went. And honestly, that is what I wish IIT had taught me.
Yeah.
Ki keep in touch, talk to people, and it's not a bad idea to send an email saying, hey, I'm looking for a job. If you hear of something, please let me know. Literally, those 2 lines will do magic at times. But
I
yeah,
don't,
they did not teach us that.
sorry
Sorry, go ahead.
about you. But yeah, I was just saying, you know what, I don't know about you, but for me, it's always like just writing these 2 lines, hey, I'm looking for a job. Please let me know is something which feels like embarrassment that, hey, I haven't yet got anything. And
Yeah.
it took me a very long time to realize that, you know what, up to like nine, now it has been months I haven't got one.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's
I,
thing I learned it
I
very quickly.
I feel like the way we function in India, it's like it's embarrassing to say I don't have a job. But honestly, if you don't tell someone you don't have a job, how are they going to recommend a job to you, right? Like they have to know that there's someone looking for a job when they get an email saying, "Hey, I am looking for an employee." So yeah, I learned it the hard way. Still is very difficult for me to write those emails just because literally we've been conditioned our entire lives to feel embarrassed about not having a job or failing in any way.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like it's important. Put yourself out there, write to people, and cold calls and cold emails work. Even now, like even in this time of everything is digital, and you can contact this person, HR ko call karo. Sometimes just writing to a project manager and saying, hey, I'm interested in your project. If you ever have a position open, here's my CV, actually works. But that is not something we were taught at IIT, and I honestly wish that was a skill I came out with.
Like after IIT, I learned this thing that, you know what, you might not receive positive responses, but the point that you will receive a response is itself a somewhere a success.
Exactly. Yeah. Like receiving a reply, even if it says I don't have anything for you, is great. Doesn't matter because it's better than not receiving a reply any day, which is sad, is disheartening, but is okay.
Just on that, I mentioned that, you know what, the similar thing happened to me. I wrote to a person, hey, I'm looking for a job, and that person said, no, I don't have it. And 3 months later, that person once again contacted me and saying, hey, you know what, we have something now. Are you interested now? I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, I am. And
Yep.
really, that I learned it very hard way that write and tell people that you're looking for something. They'll help you.
Absolutely. Yes, they will. And honestly, like most people out there are like, they will treat you like they wanted to be treated when they started out.
Yes, I think
Like,
yes.
I expected people to be very dismissive and stuff, but they were actually like, hey, I've been in this place. Let's see if we can find something for this kid.
Very
Helps.
similar. I thought that, you know what, why would anyone even be interested in answering my mail? They would be dismissive, they'll judge me on various grounds. But no, people are sweet and kind.
Yeah, they are. They're surprisingly sweet and kind. And sometimes, like now, I feel like it's time to pay it forward. Like if I ever hear of a job opportunity, I will write out a million mail saying, "Hey, if you're graduating or have graduating students, we have a job. Please send them here."
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, just a question on that.
Mhm.
You started doing you went into Bloomberg in 2019 and you graduated in 2017. How was this 2 year period for you? What all did you do professionally, academically, or just personally? How did you develop yourself to go into this, to go into Bloomberg?
Okay, so on the timeline side of things, so I graduated 2017, and then I started school fall, so August of 2018 at Bloomberg. So it was like I want to say a little more than a year, and how it went was 3 months at home looking for a job, doing absolutely nothing, feeling very, very dejected. Then I had family in India, in the US, and my dad was like, "Well," and I wanted to travel, honestly. And on that front, I don't know if IIT still gives that scholarship, but they used, do they? Yeah,
They
do
do
it,
the fellowship, the
do it,
summer internships.
do it. If you get that fellowship to travel India, do it. I had two friends who did. They had an amazing time. They saw so much, they learned so much, and they made a good film out of it.
Taurus fellowship is what you're talking about, right?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
I got it, you know what, for 2020.
Yeah, 2020. Hope you'll get it in a year other than that. But yeah, honestly, that fellowship was amazing. And I did end up applying for it, didn't get it because I started interning with Malvika ma'am on one of her projects. But yeah, that would have been like my go-to if I could. But anyway, so I graduated and I'd always been telling my dad that I wanted to travel, and he likes traveling. So I had that in my favor. And he was like, well, jao ja ke aao types, which I recognize as a major privilege now. Us waqt nahi idea tha how much of a privilege it is to be able to say, just fly to the US types. But I got here and I was sitting here again for 2 months without a job because out here, if you want to work in public health, there are, at that point I did not know this. Now I know that there are many ways to get into it. Like you can have literally an MA in English literature and work in public health. But उस वक्त नहीं पता था. And I was applying for all these technical jobs, which were like analyst or like program planner and stuff like that. And for those jobs, they do require either experience or a degree in public health. So I was like, well, if I'm going to stay here, work here, I cannot do it without a degree in public health, which in hindsight was a very reductive mindset because I now know a lot of people who got into public health from very weird rastas, like did MAs in sociology, literature, random languages, and now work in public health. But us waqt, also my idea of public health was very,
I
very
mean,
reductive,
of
very
being in that, I'm also a person who did my English literature as my bachelor's, then went up in IIT, and
Yeah.
I liked health policy, and I would like to consider and call myself somewhere a health policy enthusiast.
Yeah.
I'm working in research associate in public health domain. So really, from literature to
Exactly. Exactly. So at that point, I had no idea of all of this. Was a very, reductive person. And I actually, at that point, I feel like, to a certain extent at least, IIT opened up a lot of boxes for me. Pehle, I would think of everything in like black and white, this category, that category. IIT was like, nothing is as black and white as it seems. And then you start questioning everything. And in that sense, I would say we have amazing professors. Like, they make you question everything. You read, you question. End of story. That's it. And that is a skill which is now coming out to be very useful because pehle it would be like, oh, research paper hai. At least when I was an undergrad child, it was like, if it's a research paper, it is the holy grail. वो सच ही बोल रहे हैं. But now I'm like, एक मिनट, research paper है, data set क्या है, कहाँ से आया, कैसे किया? And that is a very important skill. Like honestly, I feel like any textbook learning pales in front of it because if you know how to read, you will be able to read anything well.
Yeah.
And that I did not have until I got to IIT. And until honestly I got to like Mona ma'am's class where she was just like, read, question, what does this say? Why does it say it? And the first time I went to that class, I was terrified. I was like, oh my God. And then the second time around, I was like, well, no, I know this. But also important, please do your reading. Please do not be like me. And I hope Mona ma'am never sees this. Yeah, I mean, I used to do my readings most of the time, but sometimes there would be classes where I would just be like, I would have read 15 minutes before, I would barely know anything, and I would walk into class just because I was like, well, if I don't go into class, I don't even learn what's going to come from class. So it's better that I go there, I listen, probably get into trouble for not having read stuff, but at least kuch to seekhungi. So yeah, don't skip class.
absolutely love
Do
Professor
your reading.
class because of how thought-provoking and insightful they were
Yeah.
always.
Absolutely.
Absolutely love this. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, just a question on that. Was it all
Mhm.
in the back of your mind that you want to pursue a career in public health? Like I know in development sector, but to narrow it down, public health. And Bloomberg
Actually, yes.
had to be okay. It was always.
Not always like since 12th grade,
Hmm.
but yes, always since I applied for IIT.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bloomberg ranks to be like the topmost public health school, and I'm sure it must have has a very extremely competitive application process. And what do you think stood out in your application which secured your position in this top ranking that school?
So, that's a very interesting question. But Yeah, so I feel like it was, to a certain extent, the variety of things I'd studied. Because once I came to the US, after that 3 month period of doing nothing and figuring out I needed a public health degree to work in public health, I ended up applying to grad schools. Um, but I ended up applying to grad schools, I want to say around January of 2018, because that's when all the application processes started. And honestly, it did start earlier. I was very late. Do not do that. You will not get scholarships. But um, before that, because I knew I wanted to do public health, and I was fortunate enough to have relatives, family, friends who were doctors or who were public health officers in the US. I shadowed them. I shadowed a doctor for the 3 months that I was sitting at home, basically trying to figure out how the heck do I get a job, because I was like, if I go meet people, I might just land up in something. And then at the same time, like once I finished that, I started shadowing a public health um, officer, and I feel like that's the good part about the US. If you're interested and you say I want to shadow someone or just like follow you and see how your day to day goes before I figure out if I want the job or not, they'll let you do it.
I just heard one word over here, like a lot of words, but one word almost just to me that, hey, you know what, passionate, and the over prevalence of this word passionate in almost every context.
It is.
Individuals mean when they say, you know what, passionate in public health slash developmental context? And how can I show that I'm passionate? Or to rephrase, how does one assess anyone's passion in public health?
I think to a certain extent, it comes down to saying I'm passionate about public health it's a blanket statement. And if I saw that, I'd be like, बहुत सारा है. Tell me what you are genuinely crazy about. Like, show me what is the one thing जिसके लिए तुम like दिन रात जाग के पढ़ सकते हो 2 साल. And when you say you're passionate about something and you write a very broad blanket statement, honestly, I feel like it cancels out. You cannot be passionate about public health as a whole. There are lots of parts which are just, honestly, to me, they're great to other people, but to me, they're like, I am not passionate about this. I wouldn't even do this for like 2 days. मैं पागल हो जाऊंगी करते करते, right? But on the flip side, when you say you're passionate about, let's just take what I was working with. When I said I wanted to bring better health to marginalized communities, right? I could back it up with a certain amount of experience in terms of my thesis. My master's thesis was literally walking out to these far-flung, tiny tribal communities in urban areas and talking to them. Yeah, when you can say that, that's when you're passionate, and when you can convey it to people that I would literally kill for an opportunity to fix this. That's when they know you genuinely mean it when you say passionate in a sea of a million other passionate people. And
Just to
you,
follow up on that,
yes,
I get that idea of self-realization of one's passion, but I'm looking forward on getting to know, you know what, how do I portray and make you realize that I am passionate about it? Because that's what happens in every application, whether it be
yeah,
grad school or any job or anything.
yeah. I think so. It's easier to convey that when you are doing an interview, because then you can tell them. You don't have a limit on words. You don't have, grammar. You don't have a lot of other things. But when you're writing an essay, I think it comes down to showing a certain pivotal point that made you feel that way, and B, showing them something constructive you've done in that direction. It does not have to be anything major, does not have to be, oh, I moved mountains. If you did, great. I am very proud of you, even if I don't know you. But very often it's not possible to. And sometimes when it's not possible to do anything and you show you've done a little something, it goes a long way to show that you put in time, effort, a lot of thought into that, and that is something that does convey passion.
Next question.
Mm-hmm.
How different is Bloomberg from IIT? I get it. It was really competitive for you. You know what, by your thing. But academically, culturally, everything?
So actually not very different.
Okay.
Academically, it is insanely rigorous. And I feel like competitive भी IIT में थोड़ा तो था ही. For us, it was a little easier because we were only a batch of 5 people. तो इतना ज़्यादा FOMO नहीं होता था कि oh my god, I didn't do this in my life and didn't do that in my life. But IIT was competitive, and it did train me to like apply for scholarships, apply for grants to a certain extent, because every single fellowship you have to write an essay. That is good practice. लिखना शुरू कर दो, it will help you a lot in life. But otherwise, coursework was intense, very, very rigorous, the same as IIT, where you had to read constantly to keep up with things. You had to be very critical, which that skill transferred very well. You have to be critical of everything you read, see, hear, and that was good. But IIT also is very, very, to a certain extent at least, it's very collaborative. There is space to bring people from different, like completely different points of view, sit down and have a conversation at outside the hostel. Honestly, that could be much effort. Yeah. Um, on the flip side, Hopkins is a lot of individual work also. Like we had group projects, but group projects maybe it was very, you would have your section cut out for you, and sure you would talk to other people, see how your section tied in with their sections and everything, but it was very like you have to do your own hard work. It was not key, you will discuss something will come out of it, and that's what your essay is going to be. Because a lot of times, at least at IIT, how it was, we would all sit and we would be like, okay, well, this is our essay prompt, here's what I was thinking about, and you all sit, you talk, you discuss, you flesh it out. To a certain extent, Hopkins was more of, well, you have all the technical skills, अब खुद से सोच के लिखो.
I really cannot say and emphasize on the fact that how much I learned because of the collaborative nature and environment at IIT, where people were not just working for you because of a book project, but they were rooting for you to have
Exactly.
in you. And not just your professors, but colleagues, but also friends who were in engineering departments and everyone else who just you
Yep.
met on a regular basis. We're all rooting.
Yep. Absolutely. I completely agree on that point.
Okay,
I feel
last
like,
question. Sorry, go ahead. You were saying something.
no, I was just gonna say, I feel like on that front, IIT spoiled us a lot. We had friends from every single walk of life doing a million different things, and everybody was still rooting for you.
Yes.
Honestly, I feel like one of the best things was thesis defense, when literally every single engineering friend I had turned up. And I was just like, what are you guys doing here? But yeah, that sort of collaboration is phenomenal, but it's also very difficult to find.
I had friends who just even turned up for your mock interviews. You could have like 7 to 8 people who
Yes.
could just over there and ask you real difficult questions over there.
Yep, absolutely. So, like, I feel like that is something to be treasured because it's very difficult to find it outside of IIT. It is next to impossible to find that sort of a thing outside of IIT.
Okay, last question. I keep it just over here. A personal and a private one. So, what has been your idea or activity or just some mantra which has been keeping you moving in these tricky times? What has been your way of just keeping us motivated?
That is a very interesting one. I feel like I don't really have a mantra per se. I just have a list of things that I do. Because to me, motivation comes from just doing. Like, if I'm sitting idle, I will lose my mind. I will also become more and more demotivated, which is a toxic cycle. So for me, it's just been a lot of doing, like do and try new things. End of story.
It's been real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for taking your
Absolutely.
time for this. I hope our
No worries.
community grows more. And that's,
Sorry, I
I
couldn't
hope
hear
our
you. I'm sorry.
community grows and connects together. And we all,
Yeah.
yes. Love
Yep. Absolutely. And on a complete side note, if anybody wants help writing grad school essays, hit me up. I will help you. I will edit them. I have no issues. I have a lot of practice now.
You know what? I'll keep it in the video. I will not delete that last end what you said. You're ready to help out everyone.
Yeah, no, I absolutely am, because I know how rough it is when you start writing an essay and you don't know what you're going for. And sometimes it helps to have someone from the outside look at it, because I had like friends and family look at it from the outside and it helped. And honestly, it doesn't take time. It's easy. So why not?